If the business is declining, then you're probably saturated with problem geniuses. And if you sit in those meetings, all they talk about is what's wrong. Here's a question for you. Are you the type that shows up to a meeting to always point out what's wrong so you can project that other people aren't doing their job? Or are you a solution genius where you show up and say, hey, I got a better way we can fix this thing so we can grow bigger, better, faster, more valuable? Now, nobody wants to sit around with the individual that always feels like they're the smartest person in the room. And I can tell you, if you're that person, nobody wants to be around you. Because see, if you're one of those people, you're always pointing out what's wrong, you're always talking about what's wrong, you're a problem genius. Your brain can only find what's wrong because you don't actually know how to create. But the truth has to be that the solution geniuses already know it's a problem. They already are working on overcoming it. They're already trying to make things better. And the lead indicator, though, for the health of a business, if it has solution geniuses versus problem geniuses, is what's happening with the business. If the business is in decline, it's being ignored. The problems are being ignored. You don't have problem geniuses if the business is in decline. You simply need to look at the statistics of a business to understand if it's in decline or if it's growing. Either way, in decline. Now, let me just be clear. If your business is stagnated, it's in decline because your costs are going up every year. And so therefore, at some point, you're losing profitability and value for the business. So on the left hand, you have your solution geniuses, and on the right hand, you have your problem geniuses. Now what you need to do is separate outside the emotion and ask yourself a question. Is the business growing or is it declining? If the business is declining, then you're probably saturated with problem geniuses. And if you sit in those meetings, all they talk about is what's wrong, and nobody actually has the intellect to identify how to fix it and make it right. Now, when you're in an environment where if the business is growing and it has problems, then that business is surrounded by solution geniuses. They're sitting around saying, hey, to get bigger, to get better, we need to fix things. We need to adapt. We need to change. We need to modify. We need to incorporate. That's why it's growing and scaling, because they're fighting the natural resistance of all problems that oppress businesses. But the only way those problems can truly oppress the business is if the leadership within the business are oppressed. What you think is what you say is what you do becomes your legacy. So what are you thinking about? What are you talking about? And what are you known for? I'll tell you what I think about. I think about it $1 billion in revenue or in value or in cash. I think about all the problems that need to be solved in order to achieve that result. And I move to accept that I am going to be a professional problem solver until I get there. And those problems are going to be with people. They're going to be with the marketplace. They're going to be with the economy. They're going to be with the systems you try to deploy. They're going to be with your strategy being wrong. They're going to be with your vendors or suppliers letting you down. They're going to be with the government changing how you have to do business or how you can do business. There's a multitude of problems you're going to deal with. And it is the difference, the resilience in solving those problems and managing your organization and your team and keeping heads in the games at critical moments of time, because you're a solution solver, a solution genius. You're always thinking of how to solve problems versus the problem genius always pointing out what's wrong. Simply look at the statistics. The revenues are growing and the profitability is growing and you're building your cash, then you're technically solution people. So how do you approach your team and convert those people who are technically problem geniuses, the smartest people in the room that can point out everything that's wrong, versus solution geniuses? See, the solution geniuses are like, okay, what's the issue? How do we make it better? How do we attack it? How do we work as a team? How do we deploy it? How do we make sure it doesn't happen again? See, those are the constructive conversations. The problem geniuses will just be like, it's wrong, it doesn't work, you don't know what you're doing, you don't know how to do it. I guarantee you those people have no clue how to do it. So here's my solution to you. If you're in an environment where someone is constantly talking about what's wrong and can't ever come up with a good idea of actually how to solve that problem, then they're a problem genius and you just need to ignore them. They're gonna drive you crazy, but you need to ignore them. Because the fact is, if they knew how to do it, they wouldn't be working for you, they would be doing it. And they wouldn't be working with you because they'd have done it without you. So what does that mean to you? If you're sitting here listening and you're like, man, I got a lot of problem geniuses in my life. You know, John Maxwell talks about law of mirror. You attract. Law of attraction's a real thing. See, law of attraction comes from law of intention, law of action, and then you attract. So what you need to do now is you need to start attracting people who are conditioned, who are actually hired, who are led to be problem solvers. But it actually takes someone who's made the decision that they're gonna solve problems, they're gonna create value, they're gonna embrace the resistance on the breakthrough, because that is in itself the breakthrough. But that starts with a leader to talk about how people should think, what they should be talking about, and what they should be doing. And for all you problem geniuses, let me just remind you what my older brother used to tell me when I was a kid. There's the way you'd like it to be. There's the way it could be. There's probably the way it should be. But guess what? We actually live in a world that it is the way it is. So you can argue and fight and point it out, or you can learn to overcome it, grow from it, be better for it, and then turn it into what you want it to be, the outcome. The point of this show in Building Billions with Brandon Dawson is to talk about how to take all those problems and convert them to the actual opportunity that will allow you to break through and scale your business to the next level of success. Be intentional who you surround yourself with. Be intentional who you actually listen to. Be intentional who you let get into your head, because the strength of the leader will determine the results of the mission. Thank you for listening to another episode of Building Billions with Brandon Dawson. I hope this is helpful in helping you decide and determine and fortify who you want helping you to build your business to $1 billion. We'll see you on the next episode of Building Billions. But before we go, I just want to remind you, leaving a review is the most important thing you can do for me. Leave the review if you love it. Leave a review if you hate it. Leave a review if you want me to talk about a specific subject on Building Billions with Brandon Dawson. I'd be happy to do it. All right, thank you for joining me for another episode of Building Billions.